Welcome, everybody. In our last episode, we answered the question of Professor Griffin on ladies who dressed as soldiers. And previously, we talked about some other ladies briefly. Um, excuse me. So, not all of the ladies had heroic deeds behind what they did, although you could say that these two ladies that I'm about to speak about are heroic deeds. So, the Continental Army continually suffered from bad food, no food, and more importantly, no clothing. So, two ladies, um, Ethel Reed, whose husband was General Reed, who was right-hand man to George Washington, excuse me, and Sarah Franklin Bank, whose father was Benjamin Franklin, were two ladies of Philadelphia, and they wanted to do something for the cause, and so they thought and they thought, and they started the Ladies Auxiliary of Philadelphia, and it was predominantly the higher class of these ladies came from not wealth, but they came from the upper crust. And so they wanted to do something. So they formed this group and they went around, they decided that they would garner money, and they wanted to give $2, which was a lot of money back then, $2 to every soldier. And they wrote to General Washington and told him what they wanted to do. And General Washington wrote back and said, please, ladies, don't do that, because what will happen is most of the men will simply take the $2 and go drink it, and they will end up just getting in trouble. So after a back and forth, they determined that they would get shirts for each man. And so what they did is, to get more shirts, instead of buying shirts, they bought the material, and this group of ladies got together and they sewed the shirts. And in the collar of each shirt, they would sew their name, so that whoever got the shirt would know who made it for them. And so they ended up making 2,400 shirts for the soldiers in Washington's army, which was currently in Valley Forge. And it was a well-welcomed article that they got, because these guys didn't have very much of anything. So it was just one way that a group of ladies had a tremendous impact on the war, because the shirts were warm, they were clean, they fit, they didn't have any tears in them, and they were greatly appreciated by the soldiers. So that's just one example. One we never hear about is Martha Washington. Martha Washington, obviously wife of George Washington, she, when she visited her husband in Boston, she was astounded at the filth and the sickness and the sanitary conditions. And she took it upon herself to improve these situations. And she did that, or she did something every winter when she went to visit her husband. She would, when the war paused for the winter months, Martha Washington would go join George, and she would take on knitting socks, sewing socks, darning socks, making clothes, seeing to the conditions of both the camp followers, who were the wives and girlfriends, but also to the soldiers as well. One of the ladies that we will speak of at length, one of my favorite ladies, Abigail Adams, had a tremendous impact on how things were accomplished at the Continental Congress Her husband, John Adams, was a predominant member of the Continental Congress, and they were prolific writers. They wrote each other every day, 2, 3 times a day sometimes, and her famous line that she's noted for is in a letter to her husband John. She writes, "And do not forget the ladies, for if you do, there shall be a revolution like none other." And so she was putting the word out to the Continental Congress that you better remember that we're equals. And she was an astounding lady, and I look forward to talking about her maybe for a day or two, because she deserves that much recognition. So there are a number of ladies that we will talk about over the next couple of months when we walk our way through the war. Speaking of walking through the war, I got a post the other day from General George, and he's going to be passing by, and he may stop in for a little visit. I'm not sure exactly what day. Someday this week he's going to come in and spend some time with us. It'd be nice to see George again. Haven't seen him in a couple hundred years, but be good to get caught up, and we'll see what's going on. So thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.